Let's jump into this. The truth about tax liens, fact versus fiction. One question I always ask the students when you give me a call, when you talk to me on the phone, again, we provide a lot of hotline support for numerous companies, but more importantly, you need to ask yourself a quick question. What type of investment would you prefer, or what type of investor would you consider yourself to be? There's really only two types of investors in my book. I like to keep this as simple as possible. The first type of investor is the investor looking for high interest rate returns. Now, this investor would be looking for more of a tax lien strategy. If we have an investor who's looking to build a business, looking to build a property business, property acquisition is going to be the avenue for you, and that's going to be the tax deed strategy. Now, again, working as the support, working here on the hotline, the majority of the students that I talk to are looking for property acquisition. Now, this is the wholesale model. We're teaching our students every single day. I'm seeing students picking up properties in all parts of this country for anywhere from 10 to 15% of tax assessed value. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. I'll give you a few examples here in just a little bit. Now, what are your options as it relates to passive investing? Okay, now passive investments, this is investment over time. This would be our high rate return investor, our investor who maybe has a 401k and IRA that they maybe want to get transferred into a self-directed IRA. This is something we help our students do as well. I wanted to show your options as a student, as an investor, in comparison to tax liens, what was available to you, or maybe what the financial institutions or the financial casinos, is what I like to call them, are willing to pay you on your money. Now, these averages I did pull off of bankrate.com. In fact, if you go over to bankrate.com, you'll be able to see these same averages that I'm looking at here. Now, a savings account. Right now, a savings account is willing to pay you less than 0.5% up to 1% on your money. Let's take a look at a money market account. Okay, most money market account is willing to pay you on your money right now, and that's a jumbo money market account. I'm sure that's more than 50,000 if you can see that figure there. It's about 0.57%. Once again, less than 1% on your money. And again, we've got a CD. My opinion, CDs, again, 0.26 up to 1%. 5-year jumbo IRA CD, it says right here, is willing to pay you up toward a whopping 1.33%. So again, when we talk about government tax lien certificates, and we know that we have the ability to get 10 to 25% guaranteed on our money, it's really a no-brainer at this point. So again, certificate of disappointment in my opinion. But let's keep going here, guys. We've got a lot to cover. Fact: tax liens are secured by real estate and regulated by state laws. So this 10 to 25% guaranteed we're talking about here is not only guaranteed by our local government, but it's backed by, or it's secured by, real estate, a tangible piece of property in one way or another. Now let's talk about your options when we look at passive investments. Now, this is I pulled this slide off of one of my old presentations I used to do out there on the road, but I think it's very, very powerful. Now again, this is all contingent upon your bank account, but I wanted to use $5,000 as an average. I know at one point most people have had $5,000 at one point they could set aside and grow. And so I want to use 30 years as an average. Again, we're talking about passive investing. And before we go through these examples and I show you these figures, keep in mind what we're talking about here is compounding interest. Compounding interest is interest over time. Okay, this is interest on top of interest on top of interest on top of interest. And it's a beautiful thing once you understand it and you have a vehicle to ride the wave. Now, I always kind of laugh when I see that 6%, because right now in this country I don't think there is even a financial institution willing to pay you 6% on your money. But we had to make it close to what I'm about to show you. So let's take a bank at 6%. Okay, they're willing to pay us 6% a year over 30 years. That figure comes out to be a little over 29,000 bucks. Okay, some people go, ooh, it could be good. But let's talk about tax liens. Now, Arizona is a state that pays 16% interest. Cool thing about Arizona is there's a lot of properties in Arizona. In fact, there's a lot of delinquent tax properties in Arizona. If anybody knows where the Phoenix market's at right now, it's still, it's on an incline right now, but it's been down there at the bottom for quite some time. But we're talking 16%. Now, the state of Arizona pays 16% interest. Now, again, we're talking compounding interest. So rather than giving our bank, our local credit union, our money at 6% if we could find it, we're going to take it, we're going to invest it into tax lien certificates at a 16% compounding interest over 30 years. Comes out to be a little over $429,000. It's a heck of a lot better than just $29,000. Now let's take a look at a state like Florida. I love Florida for a few different reasons. A, it's Florida. It's sexy. It's got great properties, not only on the tax lien side, but also on the tax deed side. But we're talking 18%. Now, Florida is not always going to pay us 18%. Neither is Arizona. Again, we're going to teach you different strategies, how to get involved, how to consistently get that 16 to 18%. But the cool thing about Florida is that Florida has what's called a prepayment penalty. Regardless of when a homeowner is going to redeem within what's called the redemption period, we're always going to get 5% on our money. But let's say, for example's sake, here in Florida, we do get 18%. And again, if you follow our system, there's no doubt in my mind we can get you 18% every time. Again, let's stretch that out over 30 years. Comes out to be a little over $716,000. Now keep in mind here, we only bumped it up 2 points. We only went from 16% up to 18%, and our money almost doubled. Again, it's the power of compounding interest. And I don't remember if I mentioned this before. Again, if you do have some funds in any type of retirement account right now that's not in a self-directed IRA or a truly self-directed IRA, which gives you full checkbook control basically over where your money goes, feel free to give us a call. Be more than happy to provide some resources for you and point you in the right direction. We have a ton of experience in that realm as well. Now let's take a look at a state like Texas. Now right now Texas pays 25% interest on their tax lien certificates, on their tax deeds. I don't want to confuse you here, but again, for example's sake, let's take a look at this. We're going to talk about what's called the redemption period here in just a minute. Cool thing about Texas is not only does it pay the highest penalty or the highest rate of return on our money, but it also has what's called the shortest redemption period, being 6 months. So let's take that same $5,000, let's throw it in a state like Texas at 25% interest over 30 years, comes out to be a little over $4 million. And so my main goal here, my main point, wanted to get you excited, get you pumped up about the ability of investing in tax lien certificates. I think there's a huge resource available for a lot of people there. Okay. All right, fact, tax liens are just one of 3 property tax enforcement systems used in the United States. Okay, in fact, there's 3. We're going to talk about each one individually here so you can get an idea. Now, before we do that, let's talk about property acquisition. What are our options as it relates to property acquisition? So let's say we take a look at, let's say your options as a business owner, building a business in real estate, but more importantly, as somebody trying to focus on... All right, sorry about that. My computer was glitching. Okay, so our options with property acquisition. Realtor. Okay, you can go out and you can get a realtor. You can pay market value. You can pay the commissions, etc. We've got foreclosures or short sales. I think the big one here is a bank as a business. Not only is a bank a business, but they're going to do whatever is in the best interest of the bank. So again, if you're an active investor currently and you've tried to deal in short sales and/or foreclosures, it can be a pain in the butt. And then we've got FSBO for sale by owner. Again, these aren't all of your options as it relates to property acquisitions, but it is just a couple of them. Again, one of my big qualms that I had in the beginning as I began to build my business was having to deal with homeowners. I felt that homeowners just thought there was a lot more value in their home than it really was worth when I was dealing with somebody who was trying to sell their own home. But again, it is a strategy. Or we have government tax deeds. Cool thing about tax deeds is they're free and clear. When you acquire a property from the government or from your local county, the property tentatively is free and clear. There is some stipulations on that, again, county to county, state to state, but again, we'll talk about those. We're going to teach you how to acquire property 10% of market value. And again, this is internet-based investing. You get to do it from home. We're going to show you how to do all the effective research from home, how to acquire these properties from home, and really how to make an educated decision on a deal from home, and then how we would be able to support you in that, and then less competition as well. Again, the cat's out the bag, I believe, when it comes to tax foreclosures. 10 years ago, the game completely changed as it does today. Even 2 years ago, there's a lot more people investing into these, but again, there's a ton of opportunity. And then number 5, the county wants only the taxes owed. Again, they're not a bank. They're not trying to make more money than they need to. And again, the county just wants the taxes owed to them, so they don't really have a mutual interest to get more money. Okay. Fact, tax foreclosures, also called tax deeds, are properties that have been foreclosed on by the county due to delinquent taxes. Now, let's talk about your options again. So it's pretty plain and simple here. Your options as an investor, cool little investor guy right there for you. We can either choose property acquisition, which would be tax deeds, or for the type of investor looking to get high rate return, we're going to do tax liens. Now, I also see this quite often. An investor who's got a pretty decent sized bank account, and decent to me would be anyone that's got about, I'd say, $25,000 to $100,000 to start with. That's not taking food off the table, but in a way would like to diversify. I do think there's a ton of opportunity in tax liens, as we discussed earlier. Now, new opportunities in online tax sales. Let's talk about these here really quick. I think this is the point where we're going to get into some of our property examples. I'll show you some of the properties that were sold. I think it was in California. Let's jump into this. Really quick, this is our student website. Once you get involved with this, this is going to be your go-to command center as it relates to anything tax sales or tax foreclosures. We'll talk a little bit more about property tax list here in a little bit, but I wanted to let you know, again, this is our website. Get familiar with it if you want to get involved. Here's a tax deed example. Okay, now this is a property that was being sold in Norco, California, which is Riverside County. This is a 4-bed, 4-bath, about 3,800 square feet, built back in 2001. The opening bid on this specific property was $15,000. The county assessed value, or county tax assessed value on this property was $493,000. Now, we gathered this information from a tax sale list. This one specifically was on bidforassets.com. They're a big player in the game of online auctions right now. They don't deal just in tax sales, but they do other types of real estate sales as well. Another one out there right now is realauction.com. We'll talk some more about those guys here in a little bit. But again, here's an example of a property being sold online. Now, let's kind of break this down for you. Now, this property was being sold and was sold at an auction back in April 25th, 2013. Again, I wanted to show you what's been sold versus what's coming up to be sold. We always talk about what's coming up in our weekly webinars that we hold. For all the students who get involved, we have weekly training webinars every Wednesday. We talk about upcoming auctions, upcoming deals. We evaluate students' deals together. We kind of go through the nitty-gritty, break them down for you, and make sure that you're doing all of your due diligence correctly. Now, cool thing about this one is, again, the bid increasement is going to be $100. The minimum bid was $15,000. This was a regular auction. The deposit required, this is kind of cool, is about $5,000. Now, the reason it's $5,000 is that, again, they usually, depending on the website, they want you to deposit about 10% of what you plan on bidding. Now, they do want funds secured within 24 hours to 48 hours after you've won the auction or you've won the bid on the property. But to at least bid, they want about 10%. And that is refundable quickly if you don't win, by the way. Now, one of the main places that we're going to first start our research process is going to be on Zillow.com. I hear a lot of positives, a lot of negatives on Zillow. But in my opinion, right now, Zillow is probably one of the most accurate free resources for any investor out there. And I believe that, simply put, we are in the information age. And it's all about the data. And Zillow gathers and pulls its data from comparables. And as an investor, you know how powerful comparables can be. Now, Zillow is giving this property a Zestimate, is what they call it, about $524,000. One cool thing about Zillow is that you can go into the history of the property and see at its height. As we all know, back in the bubble, you can see the bubble there on the graph, between 2003 and about 2008. At its height in about 2006, the property was worth about $1 million. And again, the opening bid on this property is only $15,000. Again, guys, it's really a no-brainer at this point. Again, we'd gather this information via Zillow. There's our Zestimate right there. And then another place that I did not put a slide in here, which we will do eventually, is Google Earth. That's another place to go. And I think that was right there, Google Maps view of it. Cool thing about that as well is regardless of where you live in this country, I work with a lot of Canadian students as well. So students out there that are outside investors trying to invest in the United States, there's some stipulations that you do have to follow. Getting a taxpayer ID, an EIN number, things such as that, solutions such as that, we can definitely help you with. But regardless of where you live, my point is this, is that you can use Google Earth and you can actually take an entire virtual tour of this neighborhood to determine if this property is in one of two categories. The main two categories is either this property is going to be rentable or it is going to be sellable. And in fact, I wish I would have put the rent amount on here. I don't think it gives it to us right here. Nope, it doesn't give it to us. But if you get on Zillow now, go to Zillow.com, look up any type of property. It'll give you an average rent, monthly rent for that property. A lot of my investors now coming aboard, they're the buy and hold model, which I think is fantastic. Because right now you cannot get a better cash-on-cash return for your money that can create such a powerful residual income every single month. All right, guys, let's talk about this. Now, let's kind of break this down again. We've got three main players to the game of tax foreclosures. Most of you are familiar with these, but let's go over them as a refresher. Three main players, that's it. We've got the homeowner, we've got the county, and we've got the investor. The investor could be anybody. As long as you're of the age of 18 years old, you can be an investor. Now, if we own property anywhere in this country, regardless of where it is, what type of property it is, we've got to pay property taxes. Cannot get away from property taxes. Okay. Now, let's talk about the county property tax system. I think it's important to understand why we have property taxes and I guess the consequences of what happens if homeowners weren't to pay their property taxes. Now, again, what happens is that the property owner is going to pay their property taxes to the local government. Once the county receives that property tax revenue, they're going to turn around and they're going to use it for the upkeep of their community, is what I like to say. Your policemen, your firemen. One of the big ones for me personally is the public education system. One thing that I used to like to talk about when I was traveling and when I was doing my seminars is how many of you in this room know where the quality of education is in the public school system. And I'd at least get one person who would say every time it's in the toilet. And in my opinion, I agree. Our quality of the education system in this country has gone down. But I think one thing I want to hit home with you is let you know that regardless of the public education system, it does have a direct reflection on our current real estate market. I mean, if you were to look at how many homeowners are still in foreclosure and dealing with the market fall, it's unbelievable. Millions upon millions of homeowners are still in foreclosure to this day. Are banks giving them loan modifications? More likely than not, no, they're not. So again, if they're delinquent on their mortgages, more likely than not, they're going to be delinquent on their property taxes. So again, local services. Now, property tax basics. Understanding how property taxes are issued and enforced is essential to getting started. Federal law versus state law. Go over this quickly. Again, I'm not an attorney. I choose not to be an attorney. Again, attorneys work for us as an investor, as do agents. Federal laws, federal income tax, Social Security, as a couple examples there. State laws, state income tax, property tax, and also sales tax. And then the little county government is property taxes. They're responsible for collecting the property taxes. Now, there's roughly about 3,200 different counties in this country, give or take. And so again, there's always an auction going on somewhere. There's always going to be an opportunity somewhere. And the cool thing about real estate, it's a necessity, guys. People need real estate. So let's talk about what happens if the property owner does not pay their property taxes. Just like anything else in life, there's usually some consequences, like we mentioned before, if we don't pay our property taxes or if we don't pay our bills in general. I mean, if you don't pay your cell phone bill, they're going to cut it off. If you don't pay your property taxes, they're going to take it from you. Enough said. So, again, if there wasn't any consequences involved, if no one paid their property taxes, then our communities could no longer survive. Our communities, our policemen, in my opinion, it's just an interesting thought. Okay, our local services get cut off. Now, the county doesn't have the funds to cover the services it's providing if property taxes aren't paid. If taxes weren't enforced, just like we mentioned, counties, it would be chaos, in my opinion. We've got to have the upkeep for the community. It's how it works. Now, is there some counties in this country who file bankruptcy? Yes, there definitely is. Do they stay in bankruptcy very long? No. Because the one thing that a county can always count on is property tax revenue. It's always going to be there. And the threat for the majority of an American is if they lose their property, it's a big part of their life usually. Now, there are 3 property tax enforcement systems in this country. I wanted to hit on these really quick. We've really talked about the first two primarily, but there is a third one we're going to mention here, which is the tax or the redemption deed system. So let's first talk about the tax lien system. Again, every state uses one of the three property tax enforcement methods. All the states in blue are tax lien states. Okay, that's where they're going to sell off the debt, and we're going to get a high rate of return. Tax deeds, that's where we're taking property acquisition. We're physically getting a deed to the property when we purchase a deed from a county auction. We're getting the property. And then green is redemption deeds. These are your Texas, okay, your Louisiana, your Tennessee, your Georgia, etc. And then we've got Florida down here. Florida's out there on its own like usual. And then we've got Nevada. Cool thing about Florida is it's what's called a dual state. Some counties do tax liens and some counties do tax deeds, and actually some counties do both, which is kind of neat. So let's talk about tax liens. If a property owner doesn't pay their taxes, the county will place a lien against the property. Okay? Again, the county needs that money for local services. So a tax lien is going to be issued on that property owner once they become delinquent. Okay, let's say we've got an $800 past due taxes, and there's going to be some penalties associated with that as well. Now, let's talk about a tax lien. A tax lien, what it is. A tax lien is a legal claim against a property which affects the owner's ability to transfer ownership. The party places the lien, utilizes that property as security for a debt or the repayment of a loan and or other claim. The power play here, this is the trump card in a tax lien environment. This is what gives us rights to foreclose. I know a lot of people have been asking me about that. Again, this is what gives you the power to foreclose. A first position lien above any other lien holders on the property. Yes, this includes the mortgage. Some people just cannot fathom why banks wouldn't pay the property taxes. In fact, most homeowners in this country have their property taxes wrapped up in their mortgage payment. That money goes into escrow. Come the end of the year, your bank or your mortgage company is going to pay off your property taxes for you. Usually that's how it works. Now, the lien turns the property into a security for taxes owed. It also prevents the transfer of ownership. One thing I think it's important to understand here is that when this tax lien is created and it's placed on a property, it puts the property owner at an absolute standstill, meaning that they can't sell this property, they can't transfer the deed of this property, they can't lend on this property, they can't do anything with this property until those back taxes are taken care of. Okay, so they're in absolute limbo, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, the county puts together a list of available tax liens and schedules a tax sale where it will sell the tax liens. 10 years ago, these were all held live. You had to attend the county auction, usually in the county building somewhere. They give you a tax sale list. More likely than not, they'd publish it in your local newspaper prior to the internet, and it was kind of a good old boys network, actually, to be perfectly honest with you, back then. But now, again, with the internet, it's opened it up for anyone. Now, let's talk about how a homeowner would remove that tax lien. Now, if a property owner wants to remove that tax lien, they're going to have to pay all of the delinquent taxes and fees associated with the property. When the owner does this, the lien is removed and a check is sent to the lien holder and or the investor. So again, it's kind of a round robin here. Cool thing about this game is that there is no association with the investor. It is sweet. I always get some big hearts that call in and say, well, you know, I don't want to kick anybody out of their house. I guess one of the big things to hit home there is understand that if it's not going to be you, it's going to be somebody else. But B, there's no association. More likely than not, you'll know who the investor is as you do your research, or excuse me, you'll know who the property owner is as you do your research. But the only communication in the game of a tax lien certificate and/or a tax deed is between the investor and the county, and the county and the investor. So the property owner is going to step up. They're going to pay what they owe in back taxes, fees, and penalties. The county is going to then turn around and write you a check for the initial investment plus your interest, which is great. Okay. Now, what happens if the property owner doesn't pay the delinquent property taxes within the redemption period? Now, I didn't put up a slide for redemption period. Most people find this pretty self-explanatory, but a redemption period is what it is. It's the time the homeowner has to step up and pay. It's going to range anywhere between 6 months out as far as 3 years, really depending on the county, or out as far as 5 years in some states as well. The average redemption period that I see in this country is about 2 to 3 years, again, county to county. Now, once the redemption period has expired, the lien gives the lien holder foreclosure rights. We're going to talk about those foreclosure rights in a second. But no, that again, this goes back to my big of heart. Understand something. That homeowner has been notified numerous times throughout that redemption period that they're delinquent, and has the bank. The bank has been notified just as many times as the property owner. And again, I mean, we're talking letters, emails, phone calls, letting them know that they're delinquent on their taxes. Again, this is more work for the county. The county doesn't want to have to do more work than they need to. They would just rather have the homeowner pay their property taxes and make their job easier. So again, what's cool about this is this kind of opens up the door of really why I personally got involved in tax liens and tax deeds. I remember about 5-6 years ago, I was watching TV when I got in this game, and I remember seeing this kind of goofy guy on TV talking about picking up properties pennies on the dollar. A lot of us have seen those infomercials on late night TV. You know, I just acquired this home free and clear for $1,700 or $800. How they were able to do that was through again, tax foreclosure. They were able to do it this way as well. Now again, they're going to be notified numerous times. Keep that in mind before you, as the investor, come the end of that redemption period, after you're the primary lien holder, you do have foreclosure rights. Now again, the tax lien has two possible outcomes for the investor. Number one, which is really what we're going for. With my tax lien investors, once we get you involved, we're going to help you buy tax lien certificates that we know are going to redeem. That's the reason why we buy liens, is that we want to get that interest. Now the second side of this is that if the homeowner doesn't pay and doesn't step up and pay what's owed in delinquent taxes, then there's going to be a foreclosure. So they're going to foreclose on the property when the redemption period has expired. Now you can see there that I put executing. I put executing there for a reason. A lot of people need to understand something. Now, depending on the county, depending on where you're investing, there's going to be what's called an executing procedure, where the county is going to execute the foreclosure, or there's going to be what's called self-executing, where you, as the investor, it is your responsibility to initiate the foreclosure process, yes, with an attorney. But again, when we're talking about picking up properties for what's owed in delinquent taxes, it's still a good deal, cost relevant to return. But again, keep in mind, our goal as a tax lien investor is to get a high rate of return. If we want property acquisition, then we're going to focus our energy and our attention into a tax deed environment or a tax deed state. Okay, so again, there are 3 property tax enforcement systems. The second one we have here is a tax deed system. Again, my favorite, which is property acquisition. So states that use the tax deeds give counties the power to foreclose on delinquent property after the redemption period has expired. No liens are issued. This used to confuse me when I first started doing this. Obviously no longer, but the biggest thing you need to understand about this is this. In a tax lien environment, the county needs the money. The county needs the money, so they're going to sell the debt. They're going to almost say, you can look at a tax lien as a note, a promise to repay. Okay. In a tax deed environment, the county is going to wait the redemption period. They're going to eat the loss in property taxes and wait till the end of the redemption period, and then they're going to sell the tax deed off. Okay. Now, in a tax deed environment, counties foreclose on the tax delinquent properties. Tax deed is issued by the county following the foreclosure. Counties sell the tax deeds at public auction to recover past due taxes and fees. So this is where we're going to get full ownership rights. We're acquiring a tax deed. Okay, this is important to get. Now, let's jump over to redemption deeds. I think you guys remember me talking about Texas earlier and how Texas paid that 25%. Now in Texas, this is called a redemption deed system. So we are physically getting a deed from the county when we buy a tax deed in a redemption deed state. Redemption deeds are tax deeds with a redemption period attached to them. In Texas, again, it's 6 months. For a homestead property, it's going to go out as far as 2 years. I don't like to talk about this. It's a great way to make 50% interest. But in Texas, it does start off at 25% for the first 6 months. Again, if it goes past that first 6 months, it does go out as far as 2 years if it's a homestead. And that interest, or that penalty rate is what they call it, is going to jump up to 50%. So it is sexy. It is powerful. There is strategies we can teach you to get that 50% rate of return. But again, if we're investing in places like Texas, if we're investing in places like a tax deed, we want property acquisition. Okay? So again, the owners have a full redemption period to recover the property owner. That's 6 months to a year. Now, counties foreclose on delinquent properties. This is the system. Tax deeds are sold at auction to investors. And after the auction, redemption period begins. During this time, the previous owner, or again, the previous owner, so they're already kicked out of their house, okay? They can still redeem by paying heavy penalties and heavy fees. It's a way that Texas, they really kind of cater to the homeowner. So if and when the homeowner can get what's owed in delinquent taxes, plus that 25%, on top of that, they're sitting pretty. They get to keep their home, and it's just an ultimate win-win. Because again, I haven't had anybody complain to me that they were unhappy that they got 25% on their money in a 6-month period. Now, I did want to create a slide about why the bank doesn't pay. Again, I get questions on this constantly. But again, it's only in the beginning, because once we understand the game, once we understand that we have a few counties selected, one thing that I do like to teach is what's called my 3x3 method. Some of you have heard that before, but again, it's awesome because I came up with it. But before we get into that, let's not get distracted here. Why doesn't the bank pay? First off, the banks are regulated by the federal government. Yes, I think we all remember that, that bailout plan, right? That was so fantastic. Well, this bailout plan that worked so well, the only contingency I see on that is that the federal government does somewhat regulate them, meaning that they're only allowed to have so many performing versus non-performing assets on their books. Last time I checked, I believe it was about 8-1. Don't hold me on that figure. Not quite sure what that figure is right now. But again, there is a regulatory procedure they have to follow. Now, if they go outside this performing versus non-performing asset structure, they risk losing their FDIC insurance. And as a bank, that's huge. I mean, it's kind of the backing from the federal government. As we can see, if they go delinquent, if they file bankruptcy, the government could and can step in. Zombie foreclosures. This is really cool. I wish I had a whole another hour to spend with you talking about zombie foreclosures. I think it's pretty neat. Basically, a zombie foreclosure are exactly those properties the banks have decided to walk away from and not pay the property taxes and are still held on county inventories. So we're going to, again, this could be over-the-counter inventory, etc. You can Google zombie foreclosures and you can pull up a couple videos from Money Watch and CNN, I believe. A couple cool things there on them. So again, there's still hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these properties that homeowners have actually walked away from because the bank has sent the notices to let them know that they're going to foreclose on the property. But again, they haven't followed through on the foreclosure because, again, that ratio holds them to making sure they're following the government's rules. Now, I did pull this off of CNNmoney.com. This is from Les Christie. I thought this was pretty powerful and absolutely relevant to what we're talking about here. Again, it says this: with prices this low, lenders aren't looking to make money off of these deals. They just want to get them off their books. Again, this is pretty powerful. It kind of solidifies what we're talking about here. Lenders aren't looking to make money off these deals. They just want to get them off their books. Again, a bank's a business. They can only have those performing versus non-performing. But again, banks are leveraged as well. We can spend a whole nother hour talking about how banks work and their leverage as well. But let's move forward here. All right, guys, here it is. Here's the training offer. $4.95. That's what it's going to take to get you guys involved with us. Again, this is the same program that we used to sell at seminars for upwards close to $3,000 to $4,000. This is what we're calling our internet launch. And so again, we believe the value is definitely there at $4.95. And we wanted to try to leave as much money in our students' pockets as possible. I can tell you success story after success story of the students that I work with that were able to acquire properties for less than $1,000 and turn them within 30 to 90 days and make a quick $5,000. Again, there's specific strategies tailored to you, your goals, and obviously your bank account. So again, guys, here it is. We have the training. Okay, you're going to get a link upon registration for the e-program. You get the 5 manuals. You're getting we have 5 of them. We've got the workshop manual, the quick start guide, and then we've got our state profile guides. The 2 major manuals that come with the program are the workshop manual and the quick start guide. Those I encourage you to get done. You can get the reading done on those pretty quickly. I'd say within 3 days. Take the weekend, sit down, print them out. Highly encourage you to print them out just like you would a textbook in college. Underline it and really dive in there. Write your questions on the side because you always have access to myself via the hotline. You get a website membership. Each individual that gets aboard the program, you're going to get your very own user ID and password, which is going to give you access to the website for 24/7. I mean, Google never shuts down, neither do we. So you're going to have access to the website 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you'll have a username and password within 24 hours upon registration. Included in the training, like I mentioned before, we've got live weekly training webinars that we hold every single week. You will be emailed the link, and you'll also be able to find the link for the weekly webinar in the Training Center section of the website. What's cool about these is they're up to date. What's cool about these is we'll be talking about live county auctions coming up. We'll be teaching you specific strategies, how to research what's called over-the-counter lists, any tax sale lists of properties that were not sold that you can acquire just for what's owed in delinquent taxes, and you can actually get that 18%, that 16%, or 25% every single time. And it's all live and it's all updated. And also, for some reason you can't make it on Wednesday evenings, that's okay. We will record them, and we do make them available for replay on our website in the Training Center section under the archived webinars. Right now, I believe we've got a little over 200 hours of recorded recorded webinar trainings for our students to have access to. We've got them organized by title or specific subject. So let's say you're interested in just Florida tax sales. You go down to a title in a webinar that says just Florida tax sales, or California tax sales, or how to effectively research or do a quick what's called a parcel ID search, which we highly encourage you to do prior to ever purchasing a tax deed. Also, you've got hotline and email support. Hotline and email support, again, the live weekly training webinars, the hotline and email support, and website membership is for the next 6 months. We did bump that from 3 months up to 6 months, so that's giving you 6 months access to everything that we're talking about here. And within 6 months, we have no doubt in our mind that you'll be able to go out there and accomplish what you're looking to do, build a business, whatever it might be. Again, the hotline, what's cool about that, unlike other companies, anytime that you have questions and you call the hotline, you're going to be talking to myself. You're going to be talking to a couple of my coworkers who are actively here, and we're ready to help you. Again, all you have to do is call the hotline. And maybe you've got a specific deal on the burner that you want help evaluating. We can definitely help you evaluate that. Also, on the website, we've got what's called a property portal, where you submit. Right now, we allow you to submit 2 deals per auction into the property portal, where we'll take the time and we'll go through, we'll analyze them. Our staff of coaches and trainers will analyze them, and we'll go through and make sure that it is a good deal. And sometimes that's all it takes, is giving you the green light or the red light, whatever you might think there. And again, the training guarantee. This is huge as well. Again, we're really, really passionate about tax foreclosures, as weird as it sounds, that we put together a training guarantee for you that says at the end of the 6 months, if you're not completely satisfied with the training, you've documented that you've committed at least 5 to 10 hours a week to this. You're actively using the website. We can tell how many times you've logged in. Oh, by the way, this is good for 2 people. So if you've got a business partner, mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, anybody you're looking to work with, you'll get 1 username and password, but 2 people can log on to the website at the same time. So you guys can do your research and your training together. So the training guarantee is that we'll work with you at our expense until you're completely satisfied or you've at least purchased your first tax lien and or tax deed. So again, guys, incredibly excited to be here. Looking forward to talking to each and every one of you. If you have questions, give us a call. I'm be more than happy to talk to you. Shade would be more than happy to talk to you. We'll put together a good business plan for you. We'll point you in the right direction. We'll help you decipher. Once you get done reading that quick start guide, we'll help you decipher your investor profile, where to start. Again, a big part of that is how much money do you have set aside to invest with. If we've got a limited amount of funds, then we're going to put you in an environment, aka a county, where we can help you find properties within your budget that we can turn quickly and build that cash flow. That seems to be one of a good strategy I'm seeing a lot of success in. And again, in this game of wholesale, in this game of tax foreclosures, you become a provider of good deals. I love getting the call In fact, I had one a couple weeks ago. A lady called me. She was in Florida, and she purchased a property out in Birmingham, Alabama. And Birmingham isn't sexy. We all know that. But there's people in Birmingham, Alabama that need properties. And she was able to acquire, I think it was a 3-bed, 2-bath house out in Birmingham. She picked up for right around $1,700, and Zillow gave it a estimate of about $60,000 to $70,000. And moral of the story is, she calls me and she says, "Skylar, what now? How do I sell this?" And that's a good question to have. And we'll walk you through the process. We've got forms, we've got scripts. We'll help you find your buyers. We'll walk you through the process. So again, guys, like I said before, I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to let you guys get onto the website. If you haven't already, get on over to secretsoftaxlientinvesting.com/training_offer. Again, secretsoftaxlientinvesting.com/training_offer. It's a long one. I'm going to leave this on the page here for you for a second, or just give us a call. Feel free to give us a call at 866-243-8877. Again, that's 866-243-8877. Again, the program's $495. This is our internet launch. Looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And when you get a sec, give us a call.